but as you might know, I like to start on time and end on time, and I'm already running a little late. So anyway, this is the last of our webinars, and so I will be seeing you next week. I was just telling Kirsten I'm still trying to decide how I'm going to get there. I have a flight, which would make sense, but with what's going on with the government shutdown and air traffic and everything, I've looked at should I drive? It's a 12-hour drive. I heard that you guys just had a snowstorm, so wasn't really looking forward to that at the beginning of November. Anyway, that's all up in the air right now. But I will see you next week. So anyway, at our last webinar, what we covered, well, over the last three, we've covered the philosophy and spirit of motivational interviewing. And then what we finished up on at the last session was the 5 skills that a career coach would need to know and to use in order to implement motivational interviewing. So today, I have another concept to cover. It's basically change. It's just recognizing that change does not happen all at once. People move through different phases as they think about and as they take steps to change. So, as a career coach, as a counselor, as a therapist, it's important to understand these stages because it helps us to meet people where they're at. So, for example, I mean, some people could just be thinking about a change and they would need a totally different approach than somebody who is already taking action toward that change. And I think that sometimes workforce, honestly, they push us to push action way before a participant is ready for action. And that's where I think that we also get a lot of our resistance. So, as we've talked about, then helping people to get ready for change and helping customers to maintain their motivation for change is a key job for coaches. But what I want to do is I want to be able to just quickly distinguish between the two. Getting somebody ready for change and then helping someone to maintain momentum toward that change, that's two different things. So, because the participant can't maintain motivation or momentum for a change if they haven't even decided that they wanted to make the change yet. So, those things are different. So, change is a process that occurs in increments. Asking questions that evoke change talk is really important. But so is understanding this progression of change. So, like, think about starting an exercise routine. At first you might think that you don't even need it. And then, I don't know, you think about it a little bit more. And then you decide, well, maybe I'm going to make a plan. Maybe then you actually start walking or going to the gym. And then over time, it just becomes a habit. Well, that's the same idea that we're going to walk through in workforce because that's exactly like the mechanism or the continuum rather of these stages of change. So I'm going to cover the 6 stages people undergo as they make changes. The time frame for moving through these are going to vary by individual because a participant could walk in at any stage, anywhere along this progression. I mean, some people probably already come to you because they're already in school, and school told them that you would pay the tuition. So they're already taking action. Other people are referred to you. They don't even know why they're there. Maybe probation, parole, maybe the TANF agency. Somebody has sent them there, and they're not even really sure what it is you do. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through those stages of change. We're probably only going to deal with, of the 6, 5 of them here, and we're going to deal with the last one when we're live in next week. So pre-contemplation is where a person doesn't even recognize yet that they have a need for change. So this is the stage where it's, I guess an easy way of thinking about it, it's before thinking about it. It's the before thinking about it stage. I also consider it to be the I'm not ready yet to talk about it stage. There's no intention of changing because it's not even on the person's radar. So it's akin, I guess, to someone maybe who has something like a drinking problem. Everyone around them sees the problem, but they don't. So when people have not recognized a need for change, then go back to what we talked about in one of our first webinars, they're in their comfort zone. And the chance that they will make a change is negligible. So I don't know, can any of you think of, or I'll give you an example, but think of someone who might come in and just be in pre-contemplation. They're not seeing any need for any type of change. They haven't really thought about it. Anybody? I'll check chat. It's Renee saying, yes, the change before the change. Okay, I'll give you an example. Maybe it's, oh, someone who comes in smelling like cannabis. Yeah, and they don't even realize that that's a problem. And that that's going to end up costing them if they did that and they were going on a job interview. Pre-contemplation, never even thought about it. So that's a good one. I'm thinking sometimes the example that I just used, somebody who was a referral, referred from another agency, and that person isn't really even sure what your agency does. So that person would be in pre-contemplation. I can't decide I want your agency, I want to do what you want to do. I don't even know what you are yet. Or it could also be a person who's just in denial. So maybe a person, like as an example, who's trained to do a job and they've been doing it for 30 years or some amount of time, but the job is being phased out. Maybe AI is taking over. Like even like, I mean, we're all familiar with this in grocery stores or lots of stores. It's now you do self-checkout. And so jobs are being phased out. And because a machine can do it faster, more efficiently, the job is disappearing. But the participant could be in denial about that and not see that handwriting on the wall. So that's a denial. Or maybe, and I see another one, they want to come, they want to, on chat, they want to go to school, but they don't realize the time and effort it will take and how they're going to need to make a lot of adjustments to their work, to their personal schedules. That can be in part, but I think that that's actually when we get down to a later stage of change, I think that that's where that one would more likely fit in because at least this person's thinking about it in that example. Or they only, yes, Kelly, they only come in to appease a family member. Mother said, husband said, child said, you need to go in there, and they're there, but you know they
These
really
are
have.
the checks I forgot to give to you.
Somebody is has their
There you go.
somebody has their voice on. Need to turn their audio off. Anyway,
I
or,
just muted him.
or are you saying something out loud to me? I can't tell.
No, I went ahead and muted the person.
Oh, okay, all right. And or maybe a person is just not interested in a thing because they don't understand that the issue is a problem, and that the good one is the cannabis, or a participant who does not have a high school diploma or doesn't speak English, and they're not interested in either service, and they don't really see that as a problem because maybe they've been able to get jobs before without speaking English or without having a diploma, and that, yet you know that most local employers want to hire people who already have a high school diploma or already speak English, but the participant really hasn't thought that through. So that is the pre-contemplation. Haven't thought about it. It's not even on my radar. And so when you're talking about a thing, this is the first time that you've ever even thought about it. Could I give you an example? I can give you a personal example of something that happened to me yesterday. I'm getting a hip replacement. I was just telling Kirsten, actually, we're together on Wednesday and Thursday. And when I get back Friday or on Monday, 3 days before Thanksgiving, I'm having a hip replacement. But while I was at the doctor's office, he told me that I also need a knee replacement. And it's like pre-contemplation. I had never thought about that before, had no recognition. I mean, I'm still like feel like a gut punch. And he asked me if I'd rather do the knee first. So that's a great example of pre-contemplation, hadn't even considered it. So next stage is called contemplation. And the contemplation is where you're thinking about it. And that's where I see Shantai, if I'm pronouncing that right, that's where I see your example really fits in. It's when I'm thinking about it. It's where the person is kind of weighing out the pros and the cons of making a change. They're maybe have some ambivalence about it. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? And they could argue either side. Should I join your program? Shouldn't I? Should I get my GED? Shouldn't I? Should I bother to learn English as a second language or not? Or maybe going down one path versus another. Like in one way, I'd like to, be in medical, but in the other hand, I'd have to go to school, and I think I'd just rather go get a job and earn some money. So there's ambivalence. So, and I actually have worked with a client who couldn't decide between two job offers. It's like that they'd gone to nursing school, and if they went out, well, CNA, and if they got out, when they got out, they were going to make, I'm just making up a number because I don't remember, like $12 an hour. And I think in our state, at least now, minimum wage is 15. But in any case, then they also had an interview at Home Depot, and Home Depot paid more than what they were going to get as a CNA. And so they're like in this contemplation, should I go the direction of, where I've just invested all my time doing this training, or this other thing's going to pay more? That's contemplation. So it could also be whether they're interested in long-term training or short-term training. It could be, taking the higher paying job at something they're not really interested in versus the lower paying job in the thing they've just studied. So the various techniques that you use with people in contemplation to explore their ambivalence, we've talked about this earlier, is we're going to ask questions, we're going to reflect back, we're going to summarize, but that's going to be a different set of skills, which I'll show you more toward the end. Right now, I'm just laying out what these changes are. Then we're going to look at strategies, and I'll give you lots of examples. So then preparation is our next one. And preparation is where the participant has already decided that they're going to make a change. But they haven't done the action step yet. They're just starting to plan. How am I going to do this? And so this is sort of a research phase. The person's gathering information about what they will need to do in order to make a change. So like one example that comes to mind might be a participant who like willingly meets with an employer rep or job developer in the organization, or maybe they call a training provider just to get information. They're preparing for the change. Maybe they want to go to school, as our example on chat, and they are doing things like reaching out and calling daycare provider to figure out like how is all this going to work. They're applying for vocational training school. So they're, going through the process to find out like, what do you need to do? What are the prerequisites? Again, it's that gathering information. They're doing everything that you have to do in order to begin to do something. Check out websites, call organizations, find out what resources that they need. And so too often, I do want to make this point, and I probably won't make it a couple more times because this is so important. Because a lot of times when people are in contemplation, it's like they're weighing the pros and the cons, and then they finally make a decision. Yes, I want to go to school. Yes, I want to get a job. Yes, I want to join the program. Yes, I want to start an exercise program, whatever. People oftentimes, too often, people will skip this stage, which is the preparation stage. So they try to move directly from contemplation, thinking about it, and they make the decision directly into action. And so they fall flat on their face because they haven't adequately researched or accepted what it's going to take to make this major lifestyle change. So somebody applies for school, but they still haven't really done the preparation to figure out, well, how am I going to get there every day? Or what's going to happen with my kids when they get out of school and I'm not home yet? Like, what kind of after school programs would be available? Or what happens if I'm in school and my child is ill and so I can't go to school? Like, they haven't really thought all of that through, and they jump right into action, and then it's just the entire plan just sort of falls apart. So what we want to do as career coaches, don't let people, or try to help people see why preparation stage is so important. And so then the next stage, which I've already mentioned, is the action stage. And that's where the participant is fully implementing the change. This is when, like, the change is in full swing. The participants are doing the actual things that they've been thinking about. So old, momentum is building and old habits are kind of being replaced with new ones. So maybe they're applying for jobs. They're actually out there. They're doing it. They're going to school. It could be that they're writing their resume. Generally, taking action is when you've decided to change a behavior, and you're within the first 6 months of making that change. Because in the first 6 months, there's still a lot of what do you want to say, like action. You're still, things are still coming up. You're not yet at the phase where there's a reduced risk of falling out. So if a person is rushed into action and they did not really prepare for the change, it all hits them at once, what this change means. And that's when all the dominoes of change, start, falling. Because, I mean, my experience is oftentimes a change in one area of your life means a change. It changes all these other areas of your life. And so if you're in the first 6 months, you're in the action phase. But once you have made the change and you have 6 months under your belt, then you're in the maintenance phase. And this is where the change becomes a habit. You've integrated this new way of living your life, of doing a thing. You're working on the job, you're going to school. Retaining a job is a really good example. So maintenance involves being able to successfully avoid temptation to return to whatever your old habits were. So the goal of maintenance stage is to just maintain this new status quo. And if you remember from when we were talking about comfort zones, people are in status quo, then they move to the learning challenge zone. And what we're trying to do is keep them out of the panic zone. But when they're in this learning challenge zone, over time, like, that becomes my new comfort zone. Like, if I'm going to school, I used to have this a lot with the youth that I work with. They were so accustomed to going to school that when the school program was over, vocational training, what they want to do is go to another school program. They didn't want to step off and get a job. That's because going to schools, their new comfort zone, and getting a job is kind of scary. They have to leave their comfort zone. So you have all this work to do to get them out using the skills that we just paid for them to acquire. So people in this stage, what they need to do is just remind themselves how much progress they've made. They're always reformulating sort of the rules of their lives. They're acquiring new skills. And so I think they're kind of in the position where they're striving for this to be meaningful and a new way of them living their lives. So anyway, a few key points. Those are the stages, those 5 stages. I just want you to recognize that they're not necessarily linear or chronological. I mean, I wish that clients would just progress smoothly through all those stages, like, stairs, you keep going up, and you don't come back down. But the change process is messier. It's not tidy like that. It's normal to dip your toe into the next stage, and then fall back. Like, so maybe you're in the contemplation stage and you move to preparation, and then you dip your toe into action, and then you slide back to just thinking about it again, or giving up, or deprioritizing, and going back to pre-contemplation. So it's not necessarily linear, but I think, as we're going to see, because I'm going to show you the strategies that you use for each of these stages. It's what I think is important is to recognize, again, where people come in at, so that we can meet them where they're at. And then last but not least, and this, again, we're going to deal with at the live session when we're on site, and that is relapse. Because from time to time, we relapse. I do it all the time with diet and exercise, to be quite honest. And that's where it's a resumption of old behaviors. You like fall from grace, you abandon all your new changes, and from client's perspective, they give up, they stop taking classes, they quit their job, they fall back into that status quo, that comfort zone, they stop returning your phone calls. And so we're going to discuss what to do when this happens. I mean, what we want to do, obviously, I think, is do our best to prevent it, but we will need strategies because it's bound to happen. I think actually, I've always thought this, with 100% certainty, we're going to lose participants in a program. There's no program that has 100% participation, like all the way through. We're always going to lose people. And so I always think, like, right up front, we need strategies for what are we going to do when people do relapse, not like wait till it happens and go, oh my gosh, like, what do we do now? That actually should almost be built into a program design, because with 100% certainty, people are going to relapse. So one of the things that I want us to see, and I'll get some answers from you, but when meeting a new client, so I've given you the stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, prep, action, maintenance, and relapse. When meeting a new client, like when you just think about it based on the description that I gave, which stage or stages do you think feel to you would be the hardest to provide, coaching and counseling to, and why? And you can either use chat or you can unmute yourself. So when meeting a new applicant, which stage seems like it would be the hardest, or stages?
Hi, this is Destiny.
Hey, Destiny.
I would say like the first stage, for example, I work with youth, so the youth may come in and they may not know what they want to do, or they're not ready to make that decision, but their parents are forcing them to be in the space, and it's like they may not be ready. So trying to communicate that with the parents, but also trying to work with the client to see how I could better, or career coaches could better assist them.
Yep. And I see that other people believe that too. I'm seeing on chat, pre-contemplation is the first stage. That is, I think that to me is also, that's what I would have on my notes as well, is pre-contemplation, because they're not even, I mean, they're they haven't thought about it at all. And so your job as a coach is to get them from pre-contemplation to contemplation to preparation to action. And so, and that's a tough one, because they don't even recognize yet that there's a problem. And then I see Rachel is saying, or go back one, pre-contemplation, some people don't see what we see exactly. Pre-contemplation, because the participant might not have fully made up their mind. But Rachel says maybe preparation, because they're depending on what types or challenges may need to be overcome. So they get bogged down in that barrier talk, pre-contemplation. I personally, again, I think it's pre-contemplation. With every person is probably a little bit different, but I think it's harder when people haven't even considered it. So let me ask you this. And Renee is saying when people are in their comfort zones, yeah, they don't see the flaws, they don't see the problem. So that's where I think it's really important because of this next question that I'm going to ask, which is what would be the likely outcome if you sit down and you write a detailed plan, an ISS, a IEP, as I always like to call them, LMNOP, EDP, like you're sitting down, you're writing a plan with the person. But if you write a detailed plan with a person who's still in the pre-contemplation stage, what do you think is going to happen? What's the likely outcome? So yeah, you don't have their buy-in yet. Exactly. What do you think the likely outcome would be with that participant? Rachel said, yeah, it's not going to fly. More, say more. What's going to be their level of motivation? They're going to begin to plan. I don't know. They might not even, they haven't even thought yet. Like if I start to write a plan and I don't even know if I want the thing yet, I haven't even considered it, then it seems to me like, yeah, it's gonna, they're saying, I like this. Exactly. They say, okay. So it's like unhealthy agreement. They'll agree with you to just move on, but they have no intention yet of doing it because they haven't processed it. Sandy says, and I agree, they'll procrastinate. I think the outcome will be unsuccessful. And that's where I think that we really have to step back and think about it, because oftentimes we do need to write a plan, but maybe sometimes the plan is just, or needs to be, the plan is for them to just think about it, and to think about what they want, what value they might get out of joining the program, working on a job, or whatever the direction is that we're trying to send them. So, because otherwise, if you write a plan, as I said, it's not, I think it most likely 99.9% of the time is not going to work because we didn't meet them where they were. We met them where we are, which is we need a plan. So what I want us to do now is I'm going to give you a description and you'll use chat to identify the stage of change that the person is in. Because one of the things that we've got to be able to do as a career coach, as a case manager, is in the back of your mind, is be thinking when you're talking to somebody, is this, I don't know that you'll use these words, but is this person in pre-contemplation? Are they in contemplation? Are they already preparing? Are they in action? Are they in maintenance? Like, where are they at? Because the strategy that you're going to use is going to be dependent on what stage they're in. So let me go through these and I'll give you a couple minutes. As soon as I see 5 or 6 that are correct, I'll move on to the next. But so Andrew's been attending a class and bringing in his grades, and he is in his 6th month and he's doing really well. What stage is Andrew in? Yep, bingo. I'm seeing it on chat. So it is maintenance, exactly. Next, we have Jessie. And Jessie wants to go to community college or vocational training school, but she has no idea what school to attend. She doesn't know what she wants to train in. What stage is Jessie in? Yep, seeing it, way to go. Maybe I'm making these way too easy. It is contemplation. And now Ralph shows up at your office. He doesn't understand what you do or why he even really showed up. Someone told him you'd get him a job. All right. I am seeing lots of correct answers. Again, I just want you to see what it would look like. Now, Raphael just enrolled in the XYZ trucking school, and he's already completed his first week. What phase is he in? He needs to get coffee. Yep, and there we are. He is in action. And now we have Melissa. And she stopped going to job search workshops. She didn't drop off her resume as she promised that she was going to do. Their career coach left her lots of messages, but she's not returning the calls. And where is Melissa? And you guys are typing before I've even finished. And if you're keeping track, then you'll know that you could probably already write what the last one is. Because it's the only one that we haven't covered, and that is Ricky. She's applying for a Pell Grant to start college in the fall. She's scheduled for an on-site visit to the school. She's especially interested in what the dorms are like. She's making a list of items that she needs while in school. She's laughing at herself because it's still 5 months away, but she's already packing her suitcase. And yes, Ricky is in preparation. So the idea is like, as again, you're hearing their stories or they're telling you their story, you're having this conversation with them, in the back of your mind, be figuring out where are they at in this decision-making process. So now I want us to look for a moment at how these stages of change even apply to us. So one of the things I probably haven't told you, which is why I took this particular illustration, I actually raise monarch butterflies in the summer. I normally release about 300 of them a year. And so just the way in which butterflies change, caterpillars to butterflies, it's like fascinating to me. But anyway, let's look at how this concept applies to us. So I was trying to think of an example that would, apply to everyone who's online right now or in the course and will watch the video later. And so what I came up with was exactly what we're studying, the implementation of motivational interviewing techniques to build relationships with participants and to increase their motivation. So what I'm going to do is I'll walk through the steps, and I want you to be looking at or thinking about how this whole, concept, how this all works on you. So reflect on your journey. So when you first stepped into the class, if you were pre-contemplation, when you first came, or maybe you were encouraged to attend, or somebody, your supervisor or boss, signed you up, you didn't even really have much of a decision about it. You may not have ever encountered the concept of motivational interviewing before. So at that moment that you join this class, you would find yourself in pre-contemplation because I don't know if I want to implement it. I never even heard of it before because you weren't aware that it existed. Or alternatively, there are some individuals who may have heard of motivational interviewing, but really don't see the need to make a change, or maybe lack information to grasp what its potential benefits could be. So the pre-contemplation stage for us is where we're just unaware of the problem, or we don't intend to make a change, or we're not going to make the change. We're not intending to make any kind of change within the next 6 months of time. So that's pre-contemplation. Contemplation is where the stage where you start to think about it and realize, like, yeah, change is possible. Maybe, like, as an example, little steps. I could be better at doing affirmations as opposed to praise. Or you sit back and maybe after a webinar or something, you think like, wow, I do ask a lot of closed-ended questions, and maybe I need to work on asking more open-ended questions, or it's I give advice a lot and I make a lot of recommendations, and I don't know, maybe I should be asking permission before I dispense all my valuable advice. In this, it's that you start to think like a change is possible. A part of you is maybe ready to grow, even if there's another part of you that hesitates. Like, I don't know, this might take a lot of time. This sounds like I already have so many things on my plate. Do I really have time to learn this other skill? Or maybe in this stage you'd be picturing yourself and what it coaching would look like if you made that shift. Maybe it, I don't know, sparks curiosity, because that's where transformation oftentimes begins. So during this stage you're weighing those pros and cons, considering what that change might mean for you, thinking it through, to begin to imagine like what are the possibilities. So at this stage, generally, people are more open and receptive to new information, to perspectives, and ideas, because they are weighing the decision. Then, if you are in preparation, this is the stage where you're actually more seriously thinking about it, and your thinking is turned into planning. So you've moved on from just wondering, should I make this change? And now you're more ready for it. But I mean, you might find yourself like, I don't know, looking up a website, maybe entering something in artificial intelligence to say, like, is this effective? You're maybe setting a small goal, and then next person who comes in, I think that, or what I want to do is I want to write some open-ended questions so that I'll be better prepared when I do talk to a participant. And so there's like more, it's like a quiet determination or something that's taking place. So you can still in preparation feel uncertain, but there's a growing sense of readiness, feeling like I don't really want to be stuck where I'm at. I want to learn new things. Or maybe you've told somebody about your plans and you begin making some small adjustments. So anyway, it just are signs that you're preparing to take action. So if you notice things like you hear yourself saying things like, I'm going to start, or I've been thinking about how to make this work, you're probably in this stage. You're in preparation. So the key here is building confidence, and creating a plan that feels realistic, one that's going to help you take those first steps. Then action is where you are starting to, your intentions become your intentions have come to life. You're no longer just thinking or planning, you're actually doing it. You are taking concrete steps toward making the change. Maybe like, I mean, the way in which I was practicing initially is like, during this next interview, I'm just going to ask open-ended questions. I'm asking open-ended questions. Like, I didn't try to do it all at one time, or next the person comes in, I'm going to listen and I'm going to try to find something that I could make an affirmation on. Oh, you know what? I need to make sure at the end of this, I summarize, and then I do that. So I'm like piecing it together to try to try to further enhance the skills. But you can, and then you begin to feel the difference and see the difference. So this stage actually oftentimes it brings like excitement, but also vulnerability, because you notice like I'm proud of myself and I'm making progress, but I also like have doubts, like especially like when you're using reflective listening. Do I sound like a parrot? Is the person on to me that I'm just repeating back what they're saying? That's normal. I mean, it's totally normal. But what matters, and in this stage, is that you're putting your plan into motion, one step at a time. You're saying things then, instead of I'm thinking about doing this, I've started, or I'm working on it. And then you're in this stage. And then maintenance is the stage where it just change becomes part of your life. You're still making a conscious effort to sustain the habit, You've made progress, but those it's and I've said this before, it's where almost like you've internalized this now. Right now, I'm less likely to have to think about asking an open-ended question consciously. I just do it. I'm less likely to have to remind myself I have to listen and I have to paraphrase and I have to repeat back and summarize because it's just, I laughed, I cried, it became a part of me. And it's now a part of who you are. So, you just notice in moments that the change totally feels natural. And making the change, it's not about perfection, it's just about persistence. So if you find yourself thinking like, I've come this far, I don't want to go back, or, I've learned this technique, I want to keep it, then you're likely at this maintenance stage. And this is where change truly becomes a part of you because your whole comfort zone has shifted. So I just want you to see that, I mean, change, these stages of change are no different for us professionally, personally, than they are for clients. And then the last would be, I guess I should add that, is relapse. And this is where you just go back to the way that you've tried it. And now you just go back to the way that you've always done it. And so my question is, where would you put yourself based on this description? Are you at pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, relapse? And I think this preparation, this was all part of the last. I guess maybe I don't need you to put it in chat. If you're willing to share, you can. But the idea is, I just want you to see this works on all of us. We're all trying to change different things. And I think that it helps, at least it helps for me, to recognize that change is difficult. And we're asking our participants to make changes that sometimes are as difficult, maybe a different subject, a different content area, but are difficult for us as well. And I think that can also, I don't know, give me empathy for the people that we're serving. Now, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through so we've gone through the stages of change. You can probably see the homework. It's going to be a lot about this, identifying and coming up with strategies. But what I want to do is I'm going to walk through these changes based on some pretend participant that I made up. And different participants will come in always at different stages, and we'll have different ideas about the service that we're going to offer. So my purpose here is to outline the strategies to show you how the motivational interviewing skills that we've already studied and used, how you use those in each one of these stages. So what I'm trying to do is put all these pieces together. So while I'm going to cover this now, although, maybe kind of quickly, because it gets a little tedious. You'll see. It's a lot to digest. And so I know that you're going to be getting the slides. So what I would encourage you to do is study the slides after I send them out, because I think that, that's going to help in terms of just your ability to absorb it and comprehension, because we're going to have to move through it kind of quickly. So in my first, and we're going to go back to pre-contemplation. In my example, a participant comes in and they don't know English, or maybe they left school and they don't have a GED. And so they're in pre-contemplation. Again, they haven't really thought about taking a GED class or learning English, or they've thought about it and they've already dismissed the idea, or they feel like, hey, I manage okay without all that stuff, I don't need that, or they just don't see any need. It's never gotten in my way before, so why should I do it now? So what should our strategy be? Well, in pre-contemplation, our strategy is to as the case manager is you're going to validate the indecision. I mean, it's like that it's okay to not have thought about this before. It is, I might say, something like, I don't know, like when you, when you've thought about, or if you thought about getting your GED or earning your, or I'm sorry, or learning English, like, what do you think about that? Like, what gets in your way? What do you think some of the advantages would be? It's just like acknowledge that they're indecisive about it. You want to establish rapport, build trust. You have to ask if we're going to ask them to think about this or to give them our like 2 cents about what employers think. I'm going to have to ask permission. I'm going to ask them for their perception of the problem. I can offer factual information again if I have asked permission, and then I'm going to obviously use my listening skills. So what does that sound like? And so what I was trying to do is, so that's the strategy, but I want to tie that into the actual skills that we've learned. And I'm going to do a few of these for you, and then I'm going to have you guys do them. So like follow, it won't be easy the whole way. So asking permission, I might say to the participant, I see that you're not fluent in English, or I see that you don't have a diploma. Would it be okay if we took a few minutes to talk about that? So that's using the asking permission skill in the pre-contemplation client participant. Open-ended questions. What are your thoughts about learning English, earning your GED? Or when you think about learning English or getting your GED, what gets in your way of moving forward? And they could say, because it's never, held me back before. What might be a good reason to learn English or get your GED? Or how has not having your high school diploma or knowing English, how has that helped or hurt you at the job? So series of open-ended questions that you could use. You also could use an affirmation. So you have figured out how to survive and get things done without knowing the language or having a diploma. That shows a lot of fortitude. And so again, if we went back to the last slide, we're building empathy, building the relationship. Listening, it sounds like there are times when knowing English or having a diploma would come in handy. This one's a little bit harder, the listening and the summary, because now I've got to pretend that I have a customer on the other side who said some stuff that I'm repeating back. And then summary, based on our discussion, if you're willing to consider it, we can revisit this subject at our next meeting. So notice again, what I was saying is, that we don't want to write a plan, except that they're going to think about it at this point. Because if we write the plan before they've made a decision, then the plan's relatively useless. So when someone is in pre-contemplation, the plan is to think more about it. Does that make sense? Are you guys with me? This is where you can say slow down or yes. Okay. Yeah, you're there. Okay. I know this one's it's just a little bit more tedious, but because I really thought about it and thought I need to show that those skills fit right in, and the spirit of motivation fit right into how people make change. Whoop, almost skipped one. Nope. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's pre-contemplation. That is right. Okay. Contemplation. Next. Okay, so now we have a participant, different example, who is thinking about going to a vocational technical school, but really hasn't made the decision and is still just contemplating it. And so again, they're weighing the pros and cons, deciding whether or not they have the time to even go to school, whether or not, is it even going to be worth the effort? Am I going to go to this school for 12 weeks? I've had participants who went through vocational training before and never ended up getting a job in the field that they had studied for, or they're deciding whether or not it's even possible for them. So that's the ready, willing, and able. That's all comes into that decision making. So they're thinking about that. So what's it like, kind of, for from their end, and what should our strategy be? Well, what we want to do is we want to encourage them to explore the pros and cons. Again, because we can't make the decision. I can't say, no, it's really a good thing if you went ahead and went to the medical training, or, truck drivers are really in demand. You might want to think about that. Or, hey, here's a list of 7 training programs that we fund. Pick off the list, because that would be, again, me taking over. I need to encourage them to think of the pros and cons. I want to evoke change talk. I want them to say how it would be advantageous to them. I want to evoke change talk that demonstrates their desire to actually move ahead and go to school, the disadvantages of maybe not changing, what happens if you don't change, and just like you're trying to assess their readiness for ready, willing, able. Is it important? Do they have the confidence? Is the timing right? So you're trying to help them decide, but your help is by asking the questions and moving them ahead. So how do we use the 5 skills? I might say something like, well, affirmation again. So you're the type of person who likes to think things through and not make rash decisions. And so that's, a positive, and I think gives people confidence and makes them also feel like they're not being judged. And I'm not upset that they haven't decided yet. Open-ended questions. Actually, I have 3. What might be some advantages and disadvantages of vocational technical training? What scares you about trying? What might help to take away that fear? Or talk to me about your schedule and how taking classes could fit in, or would fit in, because they're trying to decide whether or not they would even have the time. I could ask permission, if it would be helpful. I can list some pros and cons if that would help you decide. And then they say yes, and now I can participate more fully. Listening. So you're considering taking classes, but you're unsure if you would be successful. Again, I have to pretend I am repeating back something that they've said. And then my summary is, this might be a good time to see where we're at. You can see many advantages of going to school, but you're also seeing some challenges. You're worried whether or not you'll be able to find the time to study, given all the other things that you have to do. You want to talk to your family about taking classes and see if they agree with your decision. Did I miss anything? And so, again, that's where we pull all of those pieces that we had talked about in the earlier training. I pull all those together, which is also why, I don't know about you guys, I have to take notes. I would never, it's just my memory isn't that good. So I hope that you've been following along, because on the next stage, I'm going to have you guys come up with the affirmations, the open-ended questions, etc. So here we go. Preparation. So now they're ready. They've decided, I want to go to school. I want to go to get my GED. I want to learn English. I want to go to work. They are, and so now what they've got to do is get ready to make that change. So they've already committed. So again, this is that research phase where they're gathering up information, find out what resources are available. Like, can you pay for my gas? Or, if I need childcare, what assistance can you guys provide? Again, people fall flat on their face because they try to jump and go right into action. So what our strategy is going to be, well, first of all, where they're at, they would, maybe what they're doing and how you would observe it is they're calling a training site to find out about the hours in the class structure. So they're gathering information. Maybe they look at their schedule to be able to figure out, how would this all fit in? Would I be able to go to the class? When would I do my homework? Maybe they make a plan to address their challenges, their daycare, their transportation. or maybe they need certain uniforms or whatever, shoes, whatever, to be able to go. And I know we can provide that, but they're trying to think it through. So what is our strategy? Our strategy would be to take the time to ask questions about their planning, where they are in this planning process, what challenges they foresee, how they might overcome those challenges, like what have they thought about, how can we help them to identify their sources of support, like transportation, childcare, but just helping them to think it through. So, like, as an example, if you want to start exercising 4 or 5 times a week, you have to think it through. When is this going to happen? You're going to get up early in the morning? You're going to do it after work? Are you going to walk in right after work and immediately go? Do you want to wait for after dinner? How's this going to change your routine? Where are the kids? What about the kids? They got homework. What are they going to do while you're exercising? Or, I mean, everybody's got different situations, but what are you going to have to sacrifice? Your sleep? Or like you're going to have to get up an hour earlier to get this done? Like, what equipment would you need? So if you decide, to start tomorrow without preparing, again, likely is the whole thing's going to not be sustainable and it's going to fall apart. Same true with our participants. So now, using your motivational interviewing skills, let me give you or I want you to give me an example of what it might sound like. So, what might be an affirmation that you can use? Easy when I come up with them, a little harder when you do. What could I say to this person that is an affirmation? Remember, praise is I am proud of you. Affirmation is you, and so it needs to be directed toward them. So you can either unmute or feel free to use chat. I think it's great that you're calling about classes. Renee, I want you to change that a bit and just say, look, I don't know, something like, turn it into a you, take you, I out of it. It's great that you're calling for classes, or you are really like looking at the future and can see that these classes would be advantageous to you. So again, give it more as feedback. You are really making progress. Excellent. You are capable of making these changes. Yes. Oh yeah, you guys are doing great. Good job for deciding to go back to class. It's great that you're calling for classes. That is a great step. Excellent. And you're great. You're making a choice to move forward with this idea and looking at possible classes. I love it because that is what gives people confidence. That is what helps people to commit. And remember, I said this many moons ago, many sessions ago, people have to believe in themselves, and that's what affirmations will do. Can you give me an example of now? Next one is asking permission. Give me an example of asking permission for for the person who wants to go to training. Okay, I'm going to scroll back. These are looking good. Let's see. Would you mind if I share some thoughts about possible next steps? Excellent. Ask permission. If they say, no, I already know what I want to do, you move on. If they say, yeah, that'd help, then great. If it would help, I can provide some additional resources to help you out. Yep. Would you like for me to provide you with some possible training options? Excellent. Is it okay if I share my experience with you? Can I help you with planning your next steps? Is it okay if I give you a list of classes and the hours? And Nellie says, ask permission to provide support. If if it's okay with you, or if you think you would need it, I would be able to provide transportation, childcare. If you're interested, I can talk about it more. Up to you. So hand that over to them. Great. And then let's look at another, and that is our open-ended question. What questions could you ask them? This is where we come up with open-ended questions. Yeah, tell me about your plans for daycare and transportation. You opened up the subject and they can go wherever they want. What classes are you interested in and what times are you looking at? Sandy, I would just broaden that a little bit. Maybe say something more like, because I could answer it by saying, I want to take, I don't know, history of history of the universe, which would answer the question, is say, what classes do you want to take and why? Or what is it that you're hoping that you get out of? What class and what are you hoping to get out of that class? That would open it up just a bit. And talk to me about timing, like how soon would you want to get started? What else is going on in your life? That might get at the timing thing. What do you think that you would need to address in order to be successful in taking classes? Excellent. Are you excited about starting a training program? William, that's still yes or no. If I reworded that, tell me what excites you the most about starting a new training program, and then you'll get the information that you're going after. What are some things in your schedule that might inhibit you from taking classes? And how do you think this program will prepare you for getting your next job? I really like that too, Andrew, because it's tying it back to what we're really about, which is helping people to get jobs. So excellent tie-in. Okay, and Marlo, have you had a chance to speak with the daycare providers, and are they willing to be flexible while you're at training? You're still asking that one, Marlo, and it's still a little bit closed because I could answer that. Have you had a chance to speak with the daycare providers? Yes, I have, and they're willing. So maybe it would be to open it might be talk to me about what you've learned from your daycare providers and how that might fit into your schedule. So just open it up just a little bit. And what are some good reasons to start this career? Excellent. So yeah, I think you guys are on it. I actually am not going to have you. I would do it, but I don't think you can, is do listening and summary. And the reason is because in order to do listening, well, you just have to make up another side of the conversation. Like, so what I hear you saying is that while you want to go to school, you still have to figure out the child care. So that might be listening, or it sounds to me like what you're saying from one of your questions, that you're really excited about starting this training because it's your first step to getting a better job and earning more money. Or as my nephew, who I have talked about during this, I will tell you guys this. Yeah. I've talked about him so much. Right at this very second, 3:06, he's at a job interview. He had a job interview today at 3. So yay. Hoping that he gets it. As soon as I'm off of here, I'll be calling. with open-ended questions, making affirmations, just finding out how things happen. Anyway, yeah, so listening is like that in summary. So what I'm hearing you say is XYZ. You want to go to school, you are trying to set up your daycare and you're wanting help with that. And whatever else they might have said. So anyway, so summary statement. That's just harder without actually seeing a video or having a real conversation. So that's what we're going to do there. Now, what we're going to do, is I guess I did I didn't realize that I had an answer key. So my affirmation, you're invested, you are investing your time in planning, and that does increase your overall success. Excellent. Or asking permission. If you find it helpful, I can give you the success and placement rates of the various schools in the area. My open-ended, tell me where you are in planning. What's behind you? What's still in front of you? What adjustments would you have to make in your schedule in order to be able to take the class? What potential obstacles do you anticipate, and how will you plan to overcome those? And what do you need from me that could help you move forward? And then my listening, you're concerned that you have been to a school for many years. You have not been, it should be, you have not been to school for many years, and you hope that the teacher takes it slow. And summary, based on our conversation, you said that you'd like to start soon. You want to take a short-term class because you need to return to work quickly. You do your finances. You've done your finances and you figured out that although things will be tight, you can live. You'll need a transportation allowance to get there, which I can provide. Did I catch everything? So again, it's those 5 skills that we've already been working on. So next is action. Now I'm going to take a slightly different turn. So in the action stage, again, the person's already making change. They're looking for a job. They're already working. They're already in school. They're attending ESL. So we've moved them past pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation. They're in action. They're doing it. They're not just thinking about it. And they're within that first 6 months. So, for us, we put our tennis shoes on and we actually go out the door and start walking for a half hour. We're actually implementing the plan. So we call it the action stage if they're in the first 6 months, again, because it's not old hat yet. It's still, they definitely are not in maintenance. So the thing that I want you to see is that at this stage, they are, for my example, they're going to class, they're doing the homework, they're moving ahead. So they're implementing this decision. So as a career coach, you have to ask, so what would be our strategy with this particular group? What would our interaction look like? And this is where I think that it's really important that content of our interaction with a participant is critical. Content matters. If the meeting does not have any value to the participant, then they're going to stop returning our calls. They may or may not stop going to school, but maybe we'll end up being relegated to just being the bank. If you remember, I've talked about that, where it's like they only call us when they want to make a withdrawal. And so they start treating us like, I only call when I need transportation, when I need childcare, when I need money for books, or whatever. It's just like, we're just a funding source. And that's not what we're trying to do. So what might, what do we need to do? We need to think through how we can use this meeting to keep the participant focused on his or her goals, their dreams, their progress, and they have to get value from interacting with us. So what I did was I just created an agenda for the career coaching meeting or the visit. And again, like for me, I'd have a cheat sheet in front of me. I'm really big on cheat sheets. And because I want to ask them, well, first of all, I want to keep them focused on their dreams. So notice the first is that I'm going to discuss their dreams. Remember, like why they wanted to do this in the first place, or why they set this goal. Maybe somebody's doing it for their kids, or doing it because they want to get ahead. They're doing people do stuff for lots of different reasons. And so how they currently feel about where it is that they're at, like how are you feeling about your job search? How are you feeling about going to school? How are you feeling about the job itself? Update the progress that they've made since the last meeting. So what do they feel good about? And one of the reasons I want to do that is because I think that that's a way for me to give like lots of affirmation and help them see. It's actually harder to quit something if you already have seen that you've made progress than it is if you've made no progress at all. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but like United Way, when they're doing like a fundraising thing, they'll have like a big thermometer, and then they keep like the mercury keeps going up. And they'll put it on billboards. They'll put it everywhere. Do you know that as closer they get to the top, the more people are willing to donate, or they donate more quickly? It's like because you can see that the goal is about to be reached. It's just like as you see progress, it's harder. It's a little harder to quit. Ask what challenges that they've had to overcome. Find out whatever other help they might need, if anything. Because what we're trying to do is make sure they don't run back to that comfort zone. Set a plan for what they want to do next. Collect any documents. I just put this in because collect the documents, that's really not a motivational part. But I think that oftentimes what happens is that gets at the beginning of the agenda. I need your timesheet. I need the class schedule. I need the receipts for the clothes that you bought. I need this, I need that. And so then the meeting is about us and our needs and not them and their needs. So I put it in there, but I just want you to notice that I buried it. So it's one of the last things that we're going to talk about. So anyway, that would be an example of an agenda. And then my strategy, going back to affirmations, your determination to learn is admirable. You're really laying a strong foundation. Can we take a minute to revisit why it is that you wanted to take this class and whether those reasons are still important to you? Because you know that, and I'll talk about this when we're together live, but people don't quit stuff spontaneously. It's like, it's a thought process. And so what I want to do is be right there while they're deciding. So I like that question for that reason. Open-ended questions. How do you feel about the progress? How are you doing with your plan? What are some of the challenges that you faced, and what you've done to overcome them? What's next for you? Listening, it sounds like you're making progress, slow but steady. It's a struggle sometimes, but you're really up for the challenge. That last part actually is an affirmation. And summary, now might be a good time to summarize where we're at and what we've discussed. And then because I had run out of space, I'm not making up any more of an example. And then our last phase is that maintenance that we're going to be covering today. And this is where they've been there again 6 months or more. And we've created a new comfort zone. When we look at it from the participant standpoint, this is going to be our strategy with this participant. It's going to be very similar to what we just did with the action phase. But what I want you to see, and so I'm not going to go over those because we've already covered those, is that he did highlight 3 of these things in yellow to just point them out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to plan for follow-up support. And so, like, as an example, one of the things that happens is, like, once people are doing a thing, maybe they're on the job already and they've been working for 6 months, but we're still calling them to find out what's going on. They don't actually, like, a lot of times once they get a job, they feel like they're done, or like they're in school, like they don't need us anymore. So I want to find out, I want to get agreement with them. Like, one of the things that I like to do is stay in contact for a year. There are other services that we can offer. Would that be okay with you? What would be a good time for me to call? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Get their involvement in what our follow-up will be, get their agreement. Ask them how often do they want me to check in with them. It could be that because a lot of times, like in when people are in maintenance, they're in like they're working on a job or whatever. We call them like at first quarter, second quarter, at the end of the quarter. Maybe they want something more frequent. Maybe they want something less frequent. I don't know. I want to ask them and get their agreement, and then ask them what happens if I can't reach you. What happens if I call you and I can't find you? How should I proceed? And so we have all those emergency contacts that we ask them for at the beginning of the program. I want to know, like, is it still okay to call those numbers or whatnot? The middle part or those three questions are really going to come back when we're together live because this is information that we need in order to be able to not only maintain our involvement with them, but also you'll see why those are important if what we need to do, somebody relapses and we need to re-engage them. So it parallels again the action agenda. I just added those few items to make sure that we're getting agreement and so that they even understand that we are going to be following along. So we want to discuss those services with them. So here's my examples. Asking permission. Would it be okay if we discuss the frequency of my calls to check in on your progress? Again, whether they could be they could be doing a semester at college. Is it okay if I call you monthly, find out how you're doing, or every 2 weeks, or like once a semester? Open-ended questions. What are you doing to keep the change going? What helps you to become what helps you to be so successful in maintaining this change? What is helping you? Does the change seem like it's permanent, like working, or again, it all depends on what they're doing. What makes you believe this? Do you still have to think about doing it this way, or does it feel pretty automatic now? Or what are you doing to keep from returning to the old way of doing things? Again, this all depends on like whether they're working toward their GED or whatever. Is it okay? An open-ended question. Is it okay? Where am I saying that? Did I say that? Did I say that back here? I'm sorry. No. I was going back to see where the question came from. Is it okay? An open-ended question. Depends on how you end it. Is it okay if we talk about school, your goals, where you're headed? Is still it's a closed question because there is a
And
yes
you
or
were,
no.
when you, I'm
Pardon?
sorry, when you were giving your example, is it okay if I call you at this number? Is it okay if you were just using
Oh, I see.
your
Okay, I see.
in
Would
your
it be
questions? And
okay?
so I was like, doesn't
Yeah.
that end with a yes or no or something?
Yeah, it can. And so maybe it would be is it okay? And that's asking permission. Would it be okay if we just talk about the frequency of the calls? Like, I mean, that's the same as would it be helpful to you if I gave you a list of schools in the area that do, like, you're still you're asking permission. Like, you're allowed to ask, maybe I beat this drum too much. You're allowed to ask a closed question every once in a while. And so when you're asking permission, I could frame it that way. But yeah, I'm definitely, if everything doesn't have to be an open-ended question. But I think it's still pretty much, they see that you're asking their opinion of a thing. But I see technically, yeah, that's a closed question. I guess if I was doing a quiz and I gave it to you guys and said, is this an open or closed? I think that you're right. I would probably say that is a closed. And then last affirmation would be, you have a reason to be proud of yourself. You're really trying hard. So to sort of like wrap this section up, I just want to point out that because now we've done the 5 skills, we've talked about change, we've talked about well, change, sustained talk versus change talk. We've talked about evoking it. We've talked about the stages of change. We've talked about the spirit and feeling of motivational interviewing. Um, and so to just sort of wrap this up, it's just the point that I want to make is it is always easier in my mind, based on all of that, to prevent a problem than to try to fix it later. So small steps taken now to use motivational interviewing throughout someone's journey in the program can help to reinforce their commitment and to prevent people from ever reaching the relapse stage. I know with 100% certainty we're going to have people who relapse, but the more we use motivational interviewing, the easier it will be to re-engage them. But also, we're less likely to lose as many as we were if we're not using it. So I just see that trying to cure someone after they've already slipped is much harder than supporting them to stay on track in the first place. So what we're going to be doing then, when I see you guys, which is next week, although I know, yeah, pretty much, yeah, because some people were going to New Orleans, but then they're going to switch which site that they're going to. So I think I'm going to, as far as I know, I'm seeing you guys. But what we're going to be doing for the next session is we are going to talk about relapse and what do you do when people do fall off the wagon? How do you re-engage them? We are going to be practicing these skills in something that I like to call real play. And actually, I was a little bit nervous about doing it the last time that I did this whole series in May. And I have to tell you, it was one of the participants' favorite part of the workshop. So it's back again. Real play is different than role play. Role play is when you have to fake like you're somebody that you're not. Real play is you get to play yourself. But we are going to be practicing our skills. We're also, because I've mentioned this a million times in over the last 4 sessions, is that what would be advantageous is to have some cheat sheets. And so we're going to actually be creating some cheat sheets in the session, and you'll be creating them. So they should be very useful to you. Well, I've created some, but you'll be able to look at them, make changes, like to create desk guides so that you have something to go on. So you're not trying to think of open-ended questions off the top of your head, or you can like have in front of you what the stages of change are so that you can remember as you're talking to a person, so that you can see all this stuff in action. And we're also going to spend some time talking about the follow-up, what happens to people after they get out of the program because they're working, and how do we use these motivational interviewing skills to keep contact with them in that year following their participation. So that again, hopefully see you on Wednesday or Thursday. And now what I can do is just open this up and see if there are any questions or hopes, fears, dreams, anything about next week, anything about, I'm going to stop sharing this and then we can see each other. Anything?
You get a chance to look into the, remember I was telling you about, Ashley, about the grades, the test scores.
Yes, I sent them.
Did you?
Yeah. I can go in and click it again to say resend.
I'll
But
double check and
after,
see.
yeah, as soon as you wrote to me, I went in and changed. I had toggled it wrong so that I had to review it before the grade would send. So I changed it so that as soon as you finished, it would send the grade. And then I, on purpose, made it sent. So some people maybe even got it twice, because
Yeah,
then I said resend. But as soon as we're off of here, I'll go look at it again. I'll make
okay.
sure that you
I don't recall
yourself-
receiving it either.
You don't?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll look at that in a moment. Thanks for the heads up.
Thank you.
Ditto, you guys people didn't get anything?
I
Okay,
have a question.
Yes.
So, to replay the video, I have to have the Read AI program. Is that right?
Um,
I was sent a link because I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but
No,
I re to re
no,
oh, okay.
no, for the recording, is that what you're referring
Yes, for the
to?
recording. Yes. Uh-huh.
The recording is just a hidden link on our website, and I can put it in the chat here in 1 second. But anyone who has the direct URL should be able to access it.
Okay.
And I've been sending that out via email, from Kirsten Bayer, which is me. So,
Okay. I'll look for
I'll
that.
send it out again today with today's webinar because it's recorded as well.
Okay.
But give me
Thank
1 second and I can post it in the chat too.
Okay, thank you.
Will you post last week's too as well, please?
The last webinar should be up there. If it's not, let me double check. But yeah, it should be.
And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to be sending the next and last homework activity. And I will send the PDF of the PowerPoints to Kirsten so she can put that up on that website with this recording. Okay, there's the website.
Yeah, the third webinar isn't up yet, actually. You are correct. So I will get that up there with today's as well. And all the resources and everything are up there, the presentations, and the recordings.
All right, then. Well, I guess I will see you guys next week in person.
All right.